Hey, welcome to the VIVE Church channel. I am so thrilled that you found us. I believe as you dig into this content, God is going to reveal more of Himself and speak to you directly, mobilizing you and accelerating you in your life. God bless.
It's going to be Psalm 78, 4 through 7. So if you got your real Bibles, flip to that. I love the real Bibles, okay? But for my middle schoolers who are taking notes, okay, I've got the sermon title right at the top this time, okay? And the sermon title for my portion is Stop Sleeping on Your Calling, okay? Psalm 78, 4 through 7 says, "We will not hide from them their descendants. We will tell the next generation the praiseworthy deeds of the Lord, His power and the wonders that He has done. He decreed statutes for Jacob, and He established the law in Israel, which He commanded our ancestors to teach their children, so the next generation would know them, even the children yet to be born, and they in turn would tell their children. Then they would put their trust in God and would not forget His deeds, but would keep His commands." I felt like this was such a fitting psalm for a Voction Takeover Sunday because it really does speak to the generation. So we're just gonna dive right in. You guys can sit down now, okay? All right, okay. I also feel like I have to remind you guys at the top end of this is that I'm not from here, okay? I know my accent is deceiving because I'm like full Valley girl now, but I am from Australia, okay? My voice doesn't convey that, but my memories, okay, I still have them, okay, of when I was in Australia. And so I'm gonna take you guys back to a time when I was in second grade, okay? And I know that your American minds can't comprehend a teacher leaving the classroom. I know that here in America, it's like you have to have the teacher's aide and then the teacher's aide's assistant and the teacher in the classroom at all times. But in Australia, your teacher just dips sometimes. She just goes and does stuff and she just leaves you unattended, okay? And my teacher did exactly that. But she gave us one instruction before she left the classroom, and it was that our bums are not to leave our seats. So she leaves the classroom. However, I'm up the front of the classroom, right at the very front. I had like those fat American Girl doll square glasses because I couldn't see to save my life, okay? So I needed to be right up the front so that I could see the board. I was also a little bit of like a chatterbox, and so all my friends were at the back, so I couldn't talk to them. So when she left, I was like, I gotta make my way back there. So I hatched this genius plan, okay, to attach my seat to my bum. So my bum wasn't leaving my seat, guys. So technically I didn't disobey, and I just waddled all the way back to the classroom, okay? Chatted it up for a little bit, and then I was like, you know what? She's gonna come back in a little bit. I don't wanna get in trouble. So then I proceed to start waddling back to the front of the classroom. She busts through the door at that moment, catches me, and then serves me a detention card right as she's laughing in my face. But truly, I had no one to blame in that situation because I had created my own confinement. I'd put my own self in detention, and maybe I could suggest that we do this often, not like run around and waddle around with a chair attached to your bum, but maybe you've been stuck in your own kind of confinement lately. I don't know what it is for you. It might be a job. It might be a mindset. It might be an addiction. It might be a perception that you have of other people, or maybe one that they have of you. It could be so many things, and you could be stuck right now thinking like, how did I get here? Okay, well, good news for you. The Psalms that we're gonna be diving in today are that contemplation of how did I kind of get here, and how am I stuck in my own detention, okay? But if we want to understand Psalm 78, which I read at the beginning, we're going to have to go back just a little bit to Psalm 73, okay? And there's a verse in there that says, "My flesh and my heart may fail, but God is the strength of my heart and my portion forever." Okay, here Asaph is the author of this one, and he's just telling us how exhausted he is. He's been wrestling with discouragement as he's seeing the wicked prosper and then the righteous fall. But if we jump back to the end of that verse, it says, "God is my strength," okay? So he's kind of taken a step back and pivoted. If we go back to Psalm 78 as well, he's not just thinking about himself anymore. He's zoomed out into a generational context. Asaph realizes, even if I'm tired, even when I'm discouraged, I can't let my weariness become their inheritance, okay? That's where you see the theme of revival not just becoming a personal conviction or a moment at Marked. It's not just like a worship moment or like, yeah, I want revival to happen, but then you don't do anything after that. It's actually a relay race. Each generation is responsible for carrying the torch and not just feeling the fire for themselves, but fueling it for the next. You see, Asaph was concerned that God's people would create their own confinement, as we do, in 3 specific ways. And I want to start off with complacency, okay? I need everyone really quickly to think back to when they were younger, okay? When you had all these hopes and dreams and you could just imagine all these things. What did you say to people when they asked you, what do you want to be when you grow up? Some of you guys might have been like, I want to be a vet. I want to be a soccer player. I want to be a baseball player. I want to be a millionaire. I want to be a mermaid. I just want to have a matching mansion with my best friend and have our matching Dalmatians and golden retrievers and a Google slide tunnel that goes between our bedrooms. It's not a lot to ask for, you know? But for real, back then you were full of vision, even if it literally defied the laws of gravity or, Bay Area budget. And you really believed that you could change the world. And then what happened? Life happened, bills happened, disappointment hit, and little by little, you just stopped dreaming. You stopped having vision. Now, it's just kind of like you're okay with just making ends meet. You're okay with getting by. You're kind of okay with that feeling where you're not really hearing from God anymore because you stopped fighting, you just started floating. The thing is that complacency is a spiritual cancer. It doesn't show up loud. It does creep in quietly and convinces you that survival mode is all that God has for you. Who is at amen? Raise your hands if you're at amen. Okay. It was low-key a trick question. Should have been everyone in here, but I'll see you guys at amen 2026, okay? But if you were here, you saw a stage full of 6th graders, literally 12-year-olds, 11-year-olds respond to the call to church plant. They have so much vision for their life and they came up here declaring, yeah, I want to have kingdom culture. That's what I want from my life. I want God to use me. Meanwhile, some of us have just gotten in the way of things. We've just gotten in patterns and we've been in church for years and we can't even remember the last time we asked God what he wants to do through us. Complacency is like that cage with velvet walls. It's comfortable, but it's still confinement. Okay, and complacency does lead us into that comfortable place. Maybe it is that comfortable factor for you, because let's be honest, some of us are just living in situations that we know we're stuck in, but at least it's comfortable, at least it's predictable, at least it's familiar, at least it's safe. It doesn't make me have to take a step towards anything else. But here's the truth, comfort is what is going to kill your calling. Comfort says, I know this isn't God's best for me, but at least I know what to expect. It's like staying in a broken down car because you're too scared to walk right across the street to the brand new one that God has for you. Psalm 78 doesn't talk about staying still. It talks about telling, teaching, and proclaiming. That takes movement, it takes risk, it takes faith, and it takes sacrifice. Comfort is that confinement with the cozy pillows, okay? The problem is pillows don't produce purpose. So you're still sleeping on your calling. And if you're waiting for the right conditions to obey God, you will be waiting your whole entire life. If you're waiting for the right conditions to obey God, you'll wait your whole life. All right, have you guys ever been around or like maybe had that friend where they're just like kind of a little bit always negative about things? Like the way they see other people, even the way they talk about themselves, even the way they talk about church. Like, the lights are just too bright all the time. Or like, the pastor, they're just too preachy. Or, like the people in the lobby, they're so nice, it has to be fake. Or, I just can't feel his presence. It's just the fog. It's just the fog that they do there, But for real, some of us have become so critical that we can't even recognize God moving when it's happening right in front of us. We've let our hearts become so cynical that we rob ourselves of the transformative moments that we actually need so desperately. And to be fair, maybe you've been burned, maybe you've been let down, maybe you really do have some serious hurt, but instead of healing, you chose sarcasm. You chose to mock what you once used to cry out for and what you actually need so desperately. Critique is the confinement in disguise. You think you're protecting yourself, you think you're putting up the right walls, but instead you're actually paralyzing your purpose. Psalm 78 doesn't spend time marinating in past hurt, rehearsing the same narrative until it infects every single thought and action that you have. It declares praiseworthy deeds of the Lord. That is what breaks the cycle, okay? That's what revives your soul. You don't break chains by analyzing them. You break chains by praising despite them. The truth is that as Christians, we aren't confined. We've been set free. However, you will live confined if you accept complacency, comfort, and critique in your own life. Confinement isn't just physical, it's spiritual, mental, and generational. Psalm 78 reminds us that you pass on what you accept. You can't be free from what you're comfortable with. Psalm 78 is that generational refusal to accept confinement. We will not hide them, it says. We will tell the next generation so they will put their trust in God. It means you don't get to complain about what you're still choosing for yourself. If you've accepted complacency, if you've accepted comfort, or you've accepted critique in your own life, then you're living in a cage with the door wide open. If we take a look at Acts 16, kind of like Sil did in his message, Paul and Silas didn't accept the prison that they were in. They were in prison, yeah, they were in it, but they didn't let it get into them. They very well could have sat in that complacency and been like, oh, this is just my fate. God just wanted me here and he doesn't have a plan or a purpose for me. He doesn't want me to prosper or succeed. I'm just stuck here. He could have chosen comfort and been like, let's just wait it out quietly. I'm gonna just wait here. I'm gonna wait for someone else to open that door for me. I'm good here, I'm comfortable. It's scary out there, there's guards, so I'm just gonna wait here, okay? They could have given into critique. They could have been like, God, how'd you let this happen to me? You don't love me, you've forsaken me. But instead they praised. And it says, suddenly the earth shook and the chains fell off. That's what revival looks like. That's what freedom looks like. Praise is your protest against the confinement that you're actively living in. Praise is the protest against the confinement you're actively living in. That's what Sil just talked about. Praise is the antidote for what you're living in.